Welcome to the Rested Garden. Today is March 13th. I want to do a comprehensive video on peas, starting them indoors, getting them outside into your containers, into the ground, also talk about frost protection, but I'll splice some videos together and do that for you. Most important thing, and I'll stress throughout the video, is your peas really have to be seed started in these different containers and then get outside into wherever you're going to plant them within 2 to 4 weeks. These are all overgrown, and let me show you an example starting backwards. Today is the 13th. These were planted on March 6th, and in about a week they're going to be ready to go out, and you can already see the roots coming out. If you start them in smaller cells like this, you only have about 2 weeks from when they germinate to get them outdoors because they become too big. And we've had, of course, our typical East Coast weather where I'm getting nights of frost and freeze. Now, frost for these plants are okay. They can handle anywhere from 32 degrees to like 28 degrees and do perfectly fine. That's why I start them early. But we've been getting freezes down to 20 degrees, down to 17 degrees, and basically that would kill these out. They can't take a hard freeze like that. And of course, Mother Nature isn't working out. Okay, let's get started with the video, and I will show you how to seed start your peas indoors and then get them out into containers. When you're in a zone like I am and you get the 4 seasons, you can't get your peas out to the ground right now because it's frozen and it's soggy. But you can start them indoors early, and you can start them anywhere from 10 to 21 days. And the reason I say that is, for instance, these peas in here are in peat pots, and look at the root system already. And these were planted, today's the 19th, these are planted on the 11th, so that's only 8 days worth of growth. When you're holding them in here, you got to make sure moisture stays in the bottom of the container. So plan to start these peas 10 to 14 days before you would get them out into your garden or out into your containers. But this is a great way to save some time, get them growing, and you'll get peas earlier to the table. It's real easy, it's real simple. I set up my starting mix, pack the soil in there nice and tightly because peas have a really massive root system. We're good to go with sugar peas in here. You can put 1 seed in, you can put 2 seeds in. It's up to you, but you can do it this quickly. I like to put in 2 seeds. You can always thin if you want to, but I found you can really pack peas into a space and they will do perfectly fine. So these are the sugar ants, and this is all you got to do. Press them in pretty far down, at least halfway. Those are the sugar ants. I'm just going to show you how quickly you can do this whole tray. And this over here, only 8 days worth of growth. And what I've been doing is every day I take these out and give them an hour or 2 of sun so that they're already being acclimated or hardening off to the elements, because when you have stuff that grows inside, once they've been growing a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they really don't have any tolerance to the sun. One tip I have is when you're growing plants inside, they're not used to the sun. So if you let them grow in there 3-4 weeks and then bring them outside, the sun will actually burn them. Well, once they germinate indoors, take them outside for an hour or 2 and let them get the sun. And here are my peas. Started on February 11th. They're all doing really well. That's only 8 days of growth. And you can see in the peat pots, the root systems are already coming through. Don't worry about that. There's a lot of myths where people say, oh, you can't seed start peas and transplant them. Well, I've been doing this for years and it's perfectly effective. Now, I don't really like using the peat pots for starting my seeds except for peas, because they're going to go straight into the ground in the peat pots. These are Oregon sugar snap. Now for the plastic trays, you saw the root system. Let's see if we got one coming in here. You see that they're coming out. Let me just use one of these. Finish that. If you're going to use the plastic, make sure you break the bottoms up. This way when you pull the pea transplant out, the roots don't get caught on the plastic or get damaged. And a lot of people say, oh, you can't grow peas in containers or seed starts like this because they don't transplant well. And that's not true. I've been doing this for years. If you're careful, they're going to transplant perfectly fine. Now, if you want to start them early and hold them for closer to 14 days or longer, start them in cups. Put 2 in there. They'll be able to stay in here longer because the root systems have a lot more space to grow. They're not going to be growing out of the bottom of the cup right away. Starting mix across the top. You're going to bottom water these, just fill up the bottom of the tray. Let the water soak in for about 15 minutes. Whatever doesn't get absorbed in 15 minutes, just pour out. These are good to go into containers. I put them into my containers first because they warm up and they're easier to manage, and then followed by the container plantings. These are good to go out into the earth beds. Again, Maryland Zone 7, we get 4 seasons. Right now it's unseasonably warm, but usually it's windy and cold. Just clean up your container. 2 to 4 tablespoons of an organic fertilizer work really well. Mix it in to the top. All peas want are a nice loose soil that drains really well. Your transplants, the peat pots, peel the tops down so that the peat doesn't stay above the surface and wick water away. But you can see how nice the seed systems are. Just make sure when you're growing your transplants in these containers, you keep a lot of water down here, a lot of moisture, so that the root systems don't dry out at the bottom of the starting cups or trays. Drop it in. You want to drop it into just a little bit above the starting mix surface. And that's all you really need to do. You can put in anywhere from 5 to 10 peas in a container this size. They don't mind being overcrowded. And you would just work your way around this container. That's all you have to do. This is about a 2-week jump on the season. They've been acclimated to the outdoors, and I'm going to get peas a little bit sooner than if I was just dropping seeds into the containers. Once they're in and you have them packed into your container, make sure you give them something to climb up. I would go ahead and just put a bunch of these bamboo posts around here, put some jute around there, and let the peas grow up that. Sometimes the hardest thing about gardening is actually just having the time to go out and do it and not overcomplicating it. This was a cauliflower plant that, died out over the winter. Actually, we're still in winter. And if you want to plant some peas, this is an organic fertilizer. I recommend fertilizing as close as you can get to a 5-5-5, and this one's a 3-4-6. This is about 2 tablespoons of organic fertilizer. Just put 2 tablespoons in the top, and this is old soil. Peas don't need much in the way of soil prep. You can put them into your container as soon as the container soil is no longer frozen. And you don't really even need a lot of fertilizer, if any, because peas are able to fix their own nitrogen through the root system, and they can pull the nitrogen out of the air. It's this easy. You can pack peas in here too. We're going to put 6 holes in there, 2 peas in each hole. You'd be surprised too at how many peas can be put into a small space. You can thin them if you want to 1 per hole. And I recommend somewhere between 5 and 10 peas will do perfectly fine in here. As long as you can keep it moist. Your peas are planted. They're going to need something to crawl up. These are actually sugar and peas, so they're dwarf. They're only going to get somewhere between, I think, 2 and 4 feet tall. They don't need a lot of climbing, but most of your peas will. Just use your tomato cages because it's way too early for planting tomatoes anyway. Drop a cage in, and that sets up 1 container that quickly. These peas take about 60 days to get ready. Now here's an empty container with some holes in the bottom. We're going to take some container soil, just something that's loose and drains well. Put in a couple more handfuls here. 2 tablespoons on top. 1, 2. Mix it in. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 peas to a hole. About 1 inch deep. You don't have to worry if you go a little too shallow, a little too deep. They're going to grow perfectly. Now, containers will warm, and you'll be able to plant them sooner especially in the winter zones like I am. Peas can take a freeze, they can take a frost, so don't worry about them. But soon as the temperatures start to warm up, get some into the containers and you're going to have peas early in the season. And then when the ground out there is ready to go, you're going to move some more peas out there. So I loosened up the soil to about 4 inches deep just with my hand. 1 or 2 tablespoons of fertilizer in a space about, that wide. And then just drop in your transplants. These are the plastic cells, and I was telling you, make sure you open up these bottoms before you seed start so that the root system comes out. You can see that it's a little bit curled. Just loosen it up and you can just drop them in just like that. Put the soil maybe this much over where the level is right here for the seed starts. Press it in and you're good to go. To do straight peas, again, make sure that your soil's draining well. And you can do these 1 inch apart, 1 inch deep, 2 inches apart, however you really want to do it. Peas really grow well. They don't mind being packed together. And you would just go ahead and just drop them in, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches, even 3 inches apart, whatever you feel like doing. They're going to grow as long as your soil's draining well. Once you get to that, or once you finish planting them, the biggest pest for me are really rabbits. Rabbits will come down and just shear down all of my peas. Piece of chicken wire laid across your seed starts. Even the transplants, they will grow through the spaces here. Rabbits do not like crawling on this because their feet get stuck and they're not going to mess with it. So just let the peas grow up through the spacing in a chicken wire. And again, don't forget to drop in some sticks, tomato cages, whatever you want to use for your peas to crawl up. And you can protect your cool weather crops with hard, rigid plastic cups. The reasons you want the hard cups is because you can press them into the soil and the wind's not going to blow them away. But let me show you the peas. So over here I got the bigger plastic cups, and this is what they look like when they're protected with cups. A little bit beat up, but the major stem parts are nice and green, and these guys will recover and do perfectly fine. But these rigid cups create a nice little microclimate, and it will really protect your plants. And I'm surprised that these made it, because it really got down to 17 degrees and 20 degrees, just crazy temperatures around here. But they survived. The next thing you can do is you can also put the cups down and then create this little teepee where you just pull the bag up and you tie it shut, and it creates, a microclimate within a microclimate. And same peas that I showed you in the beginning out in the ground are all dead and they're not going to recover. But by just setting this up real quick, these peas survive. Peas like the cool weather. You don't need to start them under lights, but if you do, and here's the peas right in there, make sure you give them 18 hours for the first 5 to 7 days after germination. This keeps your peas and actually all of your seed starts from getting leggy. After about 5 or 7 days, turn the light down to anywhere between 12 or 16 hours, whatever you prefer. And you also don't need grow lights to start peas indoors. You can go ahead, start them in the trays just like I showed you, and instead of these sitting under grow lights, just keep them on your kitchen table, put them out during the day, bring them in at night, and your peas will seed start perfectly fine outdoors. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please check out my blog at www.theroastedgarden.blogspot.com, and also check out my YouTube videos. Thank you very much.